Canada wakes up to shock and disbelief. Overnight, U.S. President Donald Trump signed what's being called the North American Tariff Realignment Order, a sweeping executive move that, according to White House insiders, targets Canadian aluminum, auto parts, and even the agricultural sector, a decision being described by many as the biggest economic jolt to Canada in decades. But here's where things get even more explosive. The timing, the tone, and the targeting of Prime Minister Mark Carney's economic policies. All of it seems far too deliberate to be a coincidence. Sources close to the Canadian delegation in Singapore confirm that Carney, currently on a 10-day diplomatic and trade tour across Asia, was caught completely off guard by the announcement. His flight back to Ottawa is scheduled for November 4th, but officials now hint he might return earlier than planned if the situation escalates further. Meanwhile, back home, Justin Trudeau, the former Prime Minister and now senior advisor to the Liberal caucus, has reportedly been in direct communication with Carney since early this morning. One insider described it as a joint emergency coordination, adding that both men might appear together live once Carney lands, something that hasn't happened since Trudeau left office in 2024. But what exactly triggered Trump's sudden move? According to early reports from Washington, Trump's new tariff order is being justified as a protective economic correction, an attempt, as he puts it, to stop unfair Canadian manipulation of North American trade flows. Yet, even veteran political analysts admit, no one saw this coming. The U.S. tariffs will reportedly raise import taxes on Canadian goods by up to 40%, particularly affecting Ontario's manufacturing belt and Alberta's energy exports. That's right, Alberta's crude shipments to the U.S. Gulf could now face massive levies, threatening thousands of jobs and reigniting talk of Western independence. Canadian markets responded instantly. The Canadian dollar dropped nearly 3% against the U.S. dollar within hours of the announcement. Stock markets in Toronto opened with heavy losses, especially in the banking and energy sectors. RBC and Suncor both fell sharply, while the TSX saw its biggest intraday volatility since early 2020. But the most dramatic reaction didn't come from Bay Street. It came from Ottawa's war room. Leaked chatter from Parliament insiders suggests a split within Carney's cabinet. Some ministers reportedly urged him to retaliate immediately with counter-tariffs, while others warned against provoking Trump until Canada fully understands the scale of the order. And that's where things take a darker turn. Multiple sources in Washington claim that the tariff move may be only the first phase of a much larger plan. According to one unverified leak, a confidential White House document, codenamed Project Iron Border, allegedly outlines a strategy to pressure Canada into renegotiating bilateral energy and manufacturing frameworks by January 2026. The document's authenticity can't be confirmed, but the very mention of it has already sent shockwaves through diplomatic circles. By mid-afternoon, Trump took to Truth Social, posting, "Canada's been playing games for years. It's time they pay fair. We love Canada, but business is business." That single post went viral within minutes. Across Canada, social media exploded with anger, fear, and confusion. Hashtags like #TradeWar2025, #StandWithCarney, and #TrumpTariffs began trending simultaneously. In Vancouver, protesters gathered outside the U.S. consulate waving Canadian flags and signs reading, "Hands off our jobs." In Calgary, truckers called for a nationwide fuel strike. And in Ottawa, silence. No official statement. No press briefing. Just a growing sense of dread. But behind the scenes, Trudeau is said to be in constant touch with senior U.S. Democrats, particularly those uneasy about Trump's unilateral trade policies. One Liberal source hinted that Trudeau could join Carney for a joint live address, marking a rare moment of national unity in the face of a foreign economic threat. Rumors are swirling that Canada's top trade negotiator, Chrystia Freeland, has been recalled from her current post in Geneva to coordinate crisis talks. Her team is reportedly drafting a temporary economic stabilization package to shield vulnerable industries if the tariffs stay in place. Meanwhile, in Alberta, Premier Danielle Smith didn't mince words. She accused Trump of weaponizing trade to crush Canadian sovereignty and warned Ottawa to act decisively or risk losing Western support. Political analysts are already speculating whether Smith might use this moment to reignite Wexit rhetoric, demanding Ottawa defend Alberta's interests more aggressively. But perhaps the most unsettling twist came late this evening. Unverified reports from the Department of Global Affairs suggest that Trump's executive order was signed just hours after a private meeting with an unnamed Canadian business magnate, someone believed to have close ties to both the Trump Organization and key Conservative Party donors. If true, that could signal something far deeper than a trade dispute. Economists are warning of immediate price hikes for cars, consumer goods, and even groceries if the tariffs remain active through the winter. Small businesses could be hit the hardest, especially exporters dependent on U.S. markets. And as tensions rise, whispers inside the Bank of Canada hint at an emergency rate cut to stabilize the loonie, though officials remain tight-lipped. But here's where it gets even more intense. An internal government memo, reportedly circulated to federal departments late tonight, instructs civil servants to prepare contingency plans for cross-border supply disruptions and increased economic volatility in the next 72 hours. That's a chilling line for a country already grappling with inflation and an uncertain global economy. So what happens next? Carney's team in Singapore has gone completely silent. His last public statement, made just hours before the tariff news broke, praised growing cooperation between Canada and Asia-Pacific partners. But now, not a single word from him or his office. According to CBC sources, a joint live statement featuring both Carney and Trudeau is being drafted, though it's unclear whether it will be broadcast from Ottawa or remotely if Carney can't return before November 4th. Speculation is mounting that they might address the nation together, standing side by side. Carney as Prime Minister, Trudeau as the symbolic voice of experience, sending a message of calm, unity, and defiance. But until that moment comes, Canada holds its breath. The business community is on edge. The opposition is sharpening its criticism. And ordinary Canadians are asking the same haunting question. Why now? Why would Trump strike when Carney was halfway across the world, with his government temporarily scattered between Ottawa, Toronto, and Singapore? Was this timing accidental or calculated? Whatever the truth, one thing is certain. Canada is entering uncharted waters. The coming days could redefine the nation's economic future and its political balance for years to come. If Carney and Trudeau do appear together live, it could be one of the most watched moments in modern Canadian history, a potential turning point that signals whether Canada will fight back or fold under pressure. As night falls over Ottawa, the capital remains tense. The government's official statement is still pending. The markets are bracing for another turbulent day, and Canadians everywhere are glued to their screens, waiting for their leaders to speak. Because this isn't just another trade dispute. This is a power play unfolding in real time between two of the most strategic political minds in the Western world. Trump has made his move. Now all eyes are on Carney. Will he answer with diplomacy or defiance? And when he does, will Trudeau be standing beside him? The world waits. Canada holds its breath.